Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio from Boise, Idaho. This is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/Great Detectives. If you're enjoying the podcast, please follow us using your favorite podcast software. Well, this is a special Old Time Radio Cons episode, and we have a guest with us, Jim Grinstead from Tennessee. Jim, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to talking about these two radio shows. They're great.
Well, thanks so much. Jim spent 40 years as a journalist and is now the host of the Scams and Cons podcast. We met in January at PodFest, and I saw a great opportunity for a crossover. I'm not a specialist or an expert in most of the sort of crimes that our great detectives investigate, but I've researched a bit and know how to track down information. But getting perspective from someone who's got quite a bit of knowledge in scams would be really insightful. Plus, it's also a nice way to warm up for doing Racket Squad on our Video Theater podcast later on this month. So we'll be bringing you two scam-related old-time radio detective programs, and we'll chat about them and also talk about the Scams and Cons podcast. The first episode we're bringing you is one of my favorite series that we only have a few episodes of. It's Easy Money, a 1954 series originating in New York and starring Larry Haines. One interesting fact that I didn't learn about at the time we were doing it the first time is that this was actually a reboot of an old Chicago series. I discovered this while researching the career of Bob Bailey, that Easy Money, featuring the character of Mike Trent, was actually created for Chicago radio in the early 40s. Bailey didn't play the lead, but he had a recurring guest part in the series. At any rate, here from that New York series from November 14th, 1954, is the episode of Easy Money, Galloping Ivories.
The National Broadcasting Company presents another program in a new series exposing the inside secrets of gamblers, racketeers, and con men. It's called Easy Money.
Easy money? There's no such thing as easy money.
Mike Trent, the ex-magician turned rackets detective, is an expert on easy money schemes, gyps, frauds, and swindles. Tonight, he blows the lid off of one of the vicious gambling rackets that's being worked in this country year after year. This one's called Galloping Ivories. And here's Mike Trent to tell you about it.
Thank you, Bill McCord. Professional gamblers are so used to trimming their victims that sometimes they get impatient. They see a chance for a fast cleanup and they jump at it, especially if they feel they've got a soft touch for their prey. My story tonight is about a big operator who got mixed up with some kids who came mighty close to wrecking their lives. It opens in the back room of one of the suburban gambling clubs where the boss's right-hand man had just brought in his report of the night's receipts.
It's a nice night, Soapy. That's the biggest take we've had in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Only look, Gunner. Giving this kid Junior Alwyn sky-high credit, that don't seem so sharp.
No? How much did he lose tonight?
$820. All we got is this little piece of paper.
$820, eh? That makes $7,160 altogether.
Yeah.
I'll take all that kind of paper I can get.
But, Gunner, how you gonna collect? His old man said the last time he settled up, he wasn't paying any more crap game debts for Junior.
I know.
Old man Alwyn ain't the kind of guy who'll stand for muscle.
Don't worry. I'm not planning to put any heat on Junior's daddy.
I don't get it.
That's fine, Soapy. If you don't get it, Junior won't either. You and young Alwyn are about on a par on brains.
Yeah, look, boss, you don't need to get nasty.
Don't I? Listen, Soapy, I'd like to run that Junior Elwyn account up to about $15,000.
You mean fast?
Fast. Give the kid a break. Let him double up. Get him to shoot the works, trying to get even.
You're going to let him get even?
Now, what do you think? The minute the bill gets up to $15,000, tell the kid I want to see him.
Well, If you say so.
I do say so, and don't scare him. Be nice to him.
I should be nice to a dumb phony who owes us all that dough.
All what, though? I'm playing for big stakes, Soapy. $15,000 is just my first roll.
Okay, Gunner, you're going to roll like that. Be sure you're throwing your own dice.
Soapy, when I gamble, I never take chances. Well, Mr. Elwyn, I haven't seen you for a long time, haven't you? Huh?
Thanks. Your dice man said that you wanted to see me, Gunner. If it's about money...
Money? What's that? Your credit's always good for a few $100s in my gambling club, Junior.
Thanks.
I know your father gives you a nice allowance, and I know you're the kind of fellow who thinks a gambling debt is important. You're a gentleman.
Thanks again.
A few $100 doesn't mean any more to you than it does to me. If you don't have it, I know you will get it.
Well, I've been having a lousy run of luck lately, Gunner. But it's bound to change sooner or later. I never worry much about gambling losses.
Well, that's one of the things I like about you, Junior. Well, I bet you could run up a bill of $1,500 without batting an eyelash.
Yeah, sure.
You're a natural gambler. The smart kind of a gambler. Why, I haven't even checked on your account.
Fine.
By the way, Junior, how does your account stand?
Why, I've been having rotten luck, Gunner.
Well, that's what you told me. Well, how rotten?
I owe you $15,000.
15? That's an awful lot of money, Junior. I'm a little surprised.
I'll pay off, don't you worry.
I never worry about anybody paying off. Let's face facts. Where will you get $15,000?
Why, I'll get it.
Where?
I'll borrow it.
You couldn't borrow $15.
Well, it'll take a few days, of course.
Pucker up your lips more when you whistle in the dark, kid. If I give you 6 months, you couldn't raise the money anyway, short of killing your old man. You've been playing me for a sap, and I'm getting sore.
You said I could have all the credit I wanted. You let me run up...
shut up. If there's anything I hate, it's a whiny loser.
I'm not whining.
You kept right on doubling up until you found yourself in a spot.
I'm not in a spot.
Oh, no? Well, guess again, Junior. You're in a real spot.
What do you mean?
I run this gambling club to make money. Maybe that never occurred to you. If I let one loser welch on me, get by without paying, I quit making money.
I said I'd pay.
I have a couple of pretty fair ways to collect, kid. Collect or else.
You wouldn't dare.
Oh, don't lay any odds on that one, kid. When you run a place like mine, you'd be surprised what you dare.
What do you want me to do?
Well, now you're talking sense.
Well?
You run around with a pretty speedy bunch of kids, huh?
You want me to steer some of my friends to your club?
I wouldn't have them cluttering up the place. But I'd like to meet a few of them outside.
What do you mean?
From what I read in the papers, you're quite a party boy.
Well?
Well, I like parties, too. I'd like to be invited to a few parties of yours.
I don't get it.
You and I are going to be partners, Junior.
Partners?
We're going to pal around together. You introduce me as a friend who's just come to town. We start a few little $5 crap games.
I still don't get the idea. You can't make up $15,000 in a $5 game.
Did you ever see a $5 crap game stay in that class? You started playing here with dollar chips and you owe me $15,000. Get me the suckers, I'll get you $15,000 back and a lot more besides.
But I couldn't do that to my friends.
Oh, no? I'll bet you could, Junior. And what's more, I bet you will. I'll bet you 2-1. Want to take me?
No, I guess not. It looks like they're your dice.
So Gunner Gorman was the life of your party, huh?
That's the funny part of it, Mr. Trent. He was. Everybody liked him. And he didn't even suggest a crap game.
I suppose you did.
Well, yes, when he gave me the high sign.
And I'll bet Gunner Gorman was lucky, wasn't he?
Well, not at first.
Oh, no. Not while you were shooting for $5 a roll. I suppose not.
The game couldn't have been crooked, Mr. Trent. They were my dice. But Gorman knows something about the game I don't know.
How much did he win?
$5,000. He said it cut my loss to $12,500 because we're partners and I get credit for $2,500.
He's giving your friends a chance to get their money back, of course.
Oh, yes. He put on a good act, like he was embarrassed at taking their money.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a very clever operator.
He's taken a hotel room, and the rest of the crowd think he's just in town for a few days. He's throwing a party at the hotel tonight to give them a chance to get even.
Well, just where does this concern me?
Well, I may be a heel. Everybody seems to think so, even Gorman. At least I've been a prize sap. But I'm darned if I'll double-cross my friends.
You've already done that, haven't you?
Well, I was scared, I guess. And there didn't seem to be anything else to do. Until I saw Gunner Gorman take their money. Because they trusted me.
Well, what do you expect me to do about it?
Well, I may be dumb, but I don't think Gorman's on the level. If he is, I'll go to Dad and take my medicine, whatever it is. But if he isn't playing fair, I'd like to catch him.
Well, from what you've told me about him, Gorman will be rough. If he finds that you're double-crossing him as well as everybody else.
I guess I had that coming to me, all right.
Oh, well, it's nothing to what you'll have coming if Gorman discovers you're trying to trap him.
I thought it was your business to catch crooked gamblers, racketeers.
Oh, it is. But there's one type of gambler I dislike almost as much as the crooks, and you're that type.
Well, now, Mr. Trent, after all, you don't need...
Well, it's true. People who get a big thrill out of hobnobbing with dirty, cheating criminals until their charming friends take them and then come crying for help.
But I'm not crying for myself. I can't let him rob my friends on my say-so.
I don't even know that the man's a crook. He wouldn't need to be, you know.
To win so surely and certainly?
Oh, Gorman knows the dice odds backward and forward. He knows his chances on every roll of the dice. He could play percentages and win. But sooner or later, in the most honest game in the world, he'd clean them out because dice is his business, and he knows his business.
But $5,000 in one little game...
Look, there's no rougher, tougher, faster form of gambling ever been invented. One flop of the dice, he can make more money than a whole evening of poker. $5,000 would make me think Gorman was holding back.
One of my best friends, Marge Terrence, lost $1,500 of it. That makes me feel worse than anything else. Well, I'm sort of crazy about her.
Wait a minute. You mean there were girls in this dice game? And will be in the next one?
Yes, Mr. Trent. That's why I'd appreciate your help.
Well, I won't take the case to help you or your friends. You all need a good spanking when you need help.
But you will take the case?
Yeah, on one condition.
What's that?
It's understood I'm doing it strictly to put Gorman in his place.
Swell.
There's nothing swell about it. You have a revolver?
Gosh, no, I'd be scared to death of
Then
one.
you're going to be scared because you'll be carrying one.
But why?
You might need it. You've crossed up your dad and he's taken it. You've crossed up your friends, they don't know it. They wouldn't do much about it if they did, probably. But if Gunner Gorman ever finds you're double-crossing him...
You think he'd get tough?
Well, I think there's undoubtedly a very good reason for his nickname, being Gunner.
I don't know why you're feeling so big about winning $5,000 at a party. The joint does better than that most any night.
Well, you're going to meet some nice people at the party, Soapy.
Me? Hey, listen, Gunner.
Why, hadn't I told you, Soapy? You're going to be my butler this evening.
Me carting trays of sandwiches around? Look, boss, I stood for a lot, but...
Well, it's a chance to see the elite at play, Soapy.
I suppose you want me to be loaded down with fake dice, like an old copy of the Police Gazette.
Oh, don't be naive, Soapy.
Don't be... Huh?
We won't use our dice.
Are you kidding?
They'll bring their own dice. These are respectable people, Soapy.
I never see the guy so respectable. I trust his dice. You gotta be sure of winning, ain't you?
I'll win. Don't you worry your little brain about that.
You ain't no dice mechanic.
I don't have to be. Not with a thick pile rug on the floor of our hotel suite. And with a good thick pad beneath it.
Huh? Listen, Gunny, you ain't give him the old blanket roll.
No? Why not?
You couldn't get away with anything when a crapshooter in the country doesn't know about the soft roll.
I'm not dealing with crapshooters, Soapy. I'm playing with wealthy no-goods who want a thrill. I have so much money that the only kind they'll show any interest in is easy money. I'll be disappointed if I don't win $50,000 tonight. And they'll come back and back. This is just a start.
But you'll have to give Junior Elvin half the profits, won't you?
Oh, you need a head cleaning, Soapy. After tonight, my partnership with Junior is dissolved.
Well, can you do that? He might squawk.
He wouldn't dare. If he lets these saps know anything, they'll find out he was working with me, helping play them for suckers. You think he'd do that?
Who'd be coming around here with the sun still out?
We'll get the door. Find out. Oh, hello, Junior.
Hi, Gunner. Say, I thought I'd better warn you. There may be trouble tonight.
Oh, yeah? Listen, Bright Boy, if there's any trouble, you know who'll wind up with it, don't you?
Yeah. That's why I thought I should tell you.
All right, what's up?
You remember Marge Terrence, the girl who lost so much money?
How could I forget her?
Well, her brother found out about it. And he's kind of a hothead.
You don't say. Well, what about it, brother?
Well, he blames me for letting Marge lose so much money, and he threatened me.
Threatened you? How?
He said unless I brought him to your party tonight, he'd beat me up. He wants a chance to win that money back for Marge.
Man, just when you get to thinking Christmas is 5 or 6 weeks away, here comes Santa Claus.
Don't be too sure. Tim Terrence has a reputation for being awfully lucky.
Oh, I like 'em lucky.
The rest of the crowd's going to the theater, just as they'd planned, and then dropping in here afterwards. But Marge's brother, Tim's his name, he wanted to come up here earlier with Marge and me.
Just can't wait, huh?
Mr. Gorman, I know you think you're pretty hot with the dice, but I'm warning you. Tim Terrence is plenty lucky.
Well, maybe his luck's due for a change. Bring him around. The earlier the better.
Well, don't say I didn't warn you.
I won't, Junior. I won't say a thing. Except thanks.
Oh, Mr. Gorman, I think your butler or valet or whatever he is a character. Where in the world did you ever find him?
I picked him up in a rough and rugged gambling joint, Miss Terrence.
He's a real authentic type. And such a wonderful name. Sophie.
All right, cut it out, Marge. I haven't met Mr. Gorman yet.
Oh, pardon me. This is Marge's brother, Gunner. Tim Terrence.
Howdy do. You folks are a little early.
Yeah. Yeah, Marge told me how you took her money last night.
Well, she didn't have very good luck.
You sure it was luck?
Timmy, be nice now.
I don't like cracks like that, Terrence.
Well, I don't like having my sister Marge lose $1,500 either.
Oh, Tim, be yourself. I can afford it.
She doesn't know a thing about the game. Shooting craps with her is like taking pennies out of a baby's piggy bank.
Look, Terrence, I didn't ask her into the game. The game wasn't even my idea. She lost. The money doesn't mean anything to me. I'm giving her every chance in the world to get it back. You better be careful about your insinuations.
Well, you sound very noble, Mr. Gorman. Yeah, you're a great guy, all right. Taking money away from a girl who doesn't even know what the game is all about.
Listen, boss, you want me to give this bird the bum's right?
Just stay out of this, Soapy. I suppose you're quite a crapshooter yourself, Mr. Terrence.
You bet I am.
Oh, he's simply wonderful. He's won money from real professionals.
You don't say.
He talks to the dice. He says the craziest things about fever and Decatur and new shoes and... Go ahead, Timmy. Tell them some of the things.
I think I've heard him, lady.
You're a real hot-shot crapshooter,
Hot enough to cool you off. And you need to be taught a lesson.
You think you could do it, huh?
You bet I can.
I'd just as soon take your money as your sister's.
I'll just bet you would.
Well, it looks to me like there's only one way to settle this.
Oh, yeah?
Sure, with the dice. You and Tim.
But I want to play, too.
Now, you stay out of this, Marge. I'm going to give Gorman a lesson he needs.
I'm not in the habit of carrying dice around with me.
Just happens I got some in my pocket, boss. Here.
I'll just take a look at those, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. Go right ahead. Look 'em over all you like. You think I'm a crook, huh?
I'm reserving my opinion.
Give 'em the sinker test if you want to. Go ahead.
The sinker test?
Isn't the terminology of this game fascinating? I love it. What does it mean?
The sinker test means, lady, that you drop the dice in a tall glass of water and let them sink to the bottom.
I can't imagine why anybody would drop dice into a glass of water.
On a counter, you can tell that way if the dice is loaded. If the same points come up every time you drop them, well, they are. They're loaded.
Mm-hmm. Well, he seemed to be all right.
Of course they're all right.
Oh, we'll have to clear all this stuff off the table before we can shoot.
Oh, well, that's too much trouble. Get down on the floor, on the rug. It's more fun that way.
On the rug?
Well, yeah, sure.
Okay. I'll bet $10.
Huh? $10? I thought you were such a red-hot sport.
Well, before you get red hot, Gorman, you have to get warmed up a little, you know. $10.
Okay, big shot, you're covered. Go ahead, roll 'em out. I won't even bother looking for that kind of money.
Oh, Tim, a 12. The highest point you can make. That ought to be worth something.
Lady, that's boxcars. You get many of them, you ain't going to be traveling in style.
I'll shoot another 10, Gorman.
You're covered, big shot.
6 deuce.
Ada from Decatur, huh? All right, come on. Dice, show the folks you know your arithmetic. Let's make the point with a 5-3. Shake, rattle, roll.
2 and 2 is 4. That's half of what you're after.
Oh, we'll get the rest of it this time, Marge. And 6 deuce right back. Okay, I'll let the 20 ride.
6-2. But, Timmy, you said you'd make the 8 with a 5-3. Does it count this way?
I thought you wanted to get your sister's $1,500 back. We've been going half an hour, and I'm $70 ahead. This way we'll shoot all night, and nobody will get anywhere.
Well, the dice haven't gotten hot for me yet, I can tell.
Yeah, well, I'm tired of this penny ante stuff. Maybe your sister's ready to shoot for some real money.
Why, sure.
Now, you keep out of this, Marge.
You're not going to win her money back for her this way. Your sister makes you look like a piker.
All right. All right, if you feel that way about it, Gorman, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll shoot the whole $1,500 she lost all in one roll.
Oh, Timmy, that's a lot of money.
Put it up, big shot.
Well, suppose you cover it, too. Here's mine. Here, you know?
I've got it covered, don't worry. Go ahead, shoot.
Oh, Tim, how wonderful. A 7. That wins.
Yeah, something tells me...
Shut up, Soapy.
Well, I guess that was all I needed. Now I'm getting hot. I'll let the 3,000 ride. Well?
You're covered.
But, boss...
Will you stay out of this? It's 2,500, 3,000. Go ahead, roll them out.
Yeah, you bet. All right, be good to Papa Dice for 3,000 nice big dollars. Be alert, Dice. Come on, you. Sit.
Oh, too bad. A 5.
Fever, get hot, Dice. Let's 5 right back. A bank account waiting for money. Little old easy 5. Come on, Dice.
8.
5, Deuce. 5 for Papa. Just one little 5 is all I ask.
6, that's close.
Oh, I'll get closer than that. Come on, now, be good, Dice.
There it is.
And up
Look
jumps
at
the
that.
5, so I let the 6,000 ride.
You're covered, bright boy.
Boss, can't you see...
Will you shut up? You're covered, Terrence. Shoot.
Okay, Dice, let's have an 11 this time to break the monotony. Ride high, wide, and handsome on a wave of prosperity, Dice. Oh, I'm sorry, Marge. I said I'd make an 11, and it's a 7.
But that wins, Tim.
Boss, you ought to call this guy.
Will you keep your mouth shut?
You mean he's doing something crooked? I've been watching, and I don't see anything.
You wouldn't.
Is somebody insinuating I'm crooked?
I haven't said a thing, bright boy. You're letting the 12,000 ride?
Sure, if you can cover it.
I can cover a lot more than that, Sonny. Get the leather bag out of the bedroom, Soapy.
Boss, this is your
Have you
funeral,
no
but...
cape still, Soapy? Will you get the bag?
Okay, boss.
Timmy, I think this is perfectly marvelous. And it's so honest, too.
What?
He told you how good he was before he started taking your money.
Here you are, boss.
Right. All right, there you are, bright boy. If you think I'm going to run short of money, look it over.
Why, there's a fortune in that bag.
Yeah, anybody who's good enough to take it away from me can have it. If they take it honest.
Is that a crack?
Oh, no, I'm not saying a thing. Your 12,000's covered. Go ahead, roll them out.
Nothing will give me more pleasure, Mr. Gorman. What would you like?
What do you mean, what would I like?
A point or a natural?
Oh, don't be so smart. Just go ahead and roll.
All right, if that's the way you feel about it, okay.
Tim, aren't you forgetting something?
What?
You aren't talking to the dice.
Oh, well, I don't have to, Marge. With $24,000 on the line, I don't want to disturb the dice. I'll just roll them out like this, you see?
You win. A 4 and a 3.
A beautiful 4 and 3. Prettiest little dice faces I ever saw in my life. Just look at their eyes, all 7 of them.
All right, save the comedy.
Boss, you ain't
Will
going
you shut up? All right, Terrence. You've had your fun.
What do you mean?
I just wanted to see how far you'd go with it.
What are you talking
Oh,
about?
you think I'm a sap? You've been giving those dice the old blanket roll.
What does he mean, Tim?
He knows what I mean, all right.
I've been watching him. He's been using a blanket roll every time.
I don't see what you mean.
Well, it looks like you'll have to tell them,
I'll
Gorman.
tell him, all right. On any soft surface like a bed or a blanket or a rug of this kind, the dice roll in a straight line. If you hold them right, you see? Here, like this.
But what difference does it make whether they roll in a straight line or not?
The difference between winning a fortune and depending on luck.
I don't get it.
I don't either.
Oh, that's because you're dopes. You hold the dice side by side in your hand. On the first roll, with a 6 on one dice facing an ace on the other, you see? The two faces against each other. Well, there isn't a chance in the world of rolling a deuce or a 12. And the odds are 2 to 1 in your favor, coming up with a 7.
Well, you might explain the rest of it to him, Gorman. On the off chance that you roll a point, the faces of the dice you hold against each other determine how you'll make the point. You see, the dice roll over and over, but not sideways.
So you admit you were using the blanket roll, huh?
Well, I never said I wasn't.
But, boss, why did you let him get away with it so long?
Well, I'll
What-
tell you, Soapy. Because he didn't want to expose his own racket unless he had to. He didn't want to let Junior and Marge see how they'd been losing their money.
Oh, you know all the answers, don't you?
When I lost the 1,500, we rolled the dice on a rug just like this one. Smooth and soft.
And you had just as good a chance to roll them right as I did. The dice aren't crooked. You got no beef.
Should I pick up the dough, boss?
Why, no, Soapy. I'm really shocked at you. We aren't going to have any strong-arm stuff. Mr. Terrence won the money.
You mean...
He won it the same way I won it from these suckers. But we're just going to roll a few more hands, and, well, this time, I'm going to handle the dice.
Mike, that's Soapy. He has a gun.
Didn't you expect he would have?
You won't get hurt, mister, if you play along with Gunner like he wants.
You see, I wouldn't dream of hijacking you. All I want is the same chance you had. You have $24,000 on the table, and I cover it. But this time I roll the dice. It's all fair and square.
That's certainly making armed robbery refined.
All right, give me the dice, mister.
Now, sure.
And you'll have no beef when I take it. 6 and an ace facing each other, the same way you held them. Any complaints?
Oh, no. Not a complaint in the world.
For $24,000. I could roll naturals all day.
Well, aren't you even going to shake them?
Oh, why bother? You and I both know how it works. I'll just give him a nice, gentle roll.
He rolled boxcars. 12.
Hey, what's going on here?
Well, I don't know, Gorman. They're your dice. Want to shoot again?
You're losing your grip, boss.
Keep still. Just take care of that gun.
Would you like to shoot again?
Just a minute. I'm going to give these dice a few rolls here.
Well, another 12.
And another one. I ain't seen so many boxcars since I was riding the rods.
What have you done to these dice?
Well, they're your dice, Gorman. You ought to know how to handle them better than that. Maybe you're nervous.
I'll bet he isn't hot. It's just not his night.
Grab up the money, Soapy.
What?
I thought you were keeping this technically on the up and up, Gorman.
Oh, you're lucky I'm not having Soapy put a slug through you. Keep him covered, Soapy.
Don't I even get my 1,500?
You're lucky to get out of here alive.
I don't believe I'd take that money, Soapy. Because the minute your fingers touch it, I shoot Gorman. I've got him covered.
Yes, Soapy. You want to risk a lot of trouble, Soapy, go right ahead and pick up the money. You see, Junior wouldn't have to worry. He has plenty of witnesses. But you'd be in a slight jam, I imagine, if there were any fireworks.
Give it to the kid, Soapy.
That's a pretty funny bluff, Gorman. I've never seen a crooked gambler yet who'd risk gunplay.
You heard me, Soapy.
What, do you think Soapy's going to risk going to the chair to save your money?
You heard me, Soapy.
I'm sorry, boss. The guy's right.
What?
Boss, I've just resigned. Here, mister, you take the gun. I don't want it.
Thank you, Soapy. You're showing excellent judgment.
You little rat, I ought to...
You ought to stay in your own backyard. That's what you ought to do. Well, so long, folks. See you at the junior leagues.
You come back here, you dirty...
Gorman. You're a ladies' prison. No rough talk.
I'll rough talk you when I get out of here. And as for you, Elwin, you dirty double-crosser...
Look who's talking. Marge, frisk him for weapons while I'm folding and stacking this money, would you?
Oh, wonderful. Mr. Trent, you're a character. Honestly.
He's a lousy...
Tut. Junior, how much money do you suppose you've lost to Gorman, roughly?
About $20,000 altogether. But it was on a regular dice table.
Sure, with 6 ace flats.
Huh?
A dice loaded so you're bound to end up loser even if you win a little once in a while. Percentage dice.
You know all the answers, don't you?
Yes, I think so.
He isn't carrying any guns, Mike.
Mike. You called him that once before.
Sure. Mike Trent. Maybe you've heard of him.
Oh. Yeah. I'll get you for this, Elwin. If
You're
it's
not going to
the
get
last
anybody, Gorman. You can't make a beef without exposing your own crookedness, and if I were you, I'd see that nothing happens to Junior.
What do you mean?
I mean, I'm making a full report of this game to the police. From now on, they'll be watching you all the time.
You're shoving me right out of town.
That's right. Any complaints?
Look, all those boxcars I rolled, I don't see
Oh, that. Well, you see, I had some Adhero fluid in a sponge pinned inside my coat. You see?
Adhero fluid. What are you talking about?
Oh, you should keep up on new developments, Gorman. It's a fluid to load dice while a game's in progress.
What?
Yes, it's a clear plastic fluid that hardens when it comes in contact with celluloid. I gave the aces on those dice a good heavy coat of it while you were telling me you were going to take over.
I didn't see you.
Well, all I had to do was get the fluid on my fingers, Marge, and rub my fingers over the aces. The dice were so loaded that when Gorman took them up, they'd turn, even on a soft, padded surface.
You're the dirtiest crook I ever ran
Oh, no,
across.
not a dirty crook, Gorman. An honest crook. Here's your 20,000, Junior, and your 1,500, Marge. Oh, and here's another 3,500 to cover what your other friends lost, Junior.
Gee, thanks. But what do I owe you for your work, Mr. Trent?
Not a cent, Junior. Somehow or other, I seem to have done all right.
And now, here's a last word from the man who knows the rackets inside out, Mike Trent.
Thank you. Well, I hope you liked tonight's show. It should help convince you that anybody can be easy money for crooked dice game operators. And remember, not even the water test is infallible for crooked dice. Any game can be rigged in 50 different ways. So the one way to be safe is to keep out of the game. This is Mike Trent signing off with the thought that you can never stay even with the game when the odds are always against you. Remember, there's no such thing as easy money.
You have just heard another in NBC's new series, Easy Money, exposing the inside tricks of the gambler's trade. Be sure to listen again next week when Mike Trent shows how it's possible for you to be gypped on what may look like a perfectly respectable raffle. It's called The Lottery Racket. Featured in tonight's cast were Larry Haines as Mike Trent, with Wendy Drew, Peter Fernandez, Ralph Bell, and Maurice Tarplin. Script by George B. Anderson. Easy Money is produced and directed for Air Shows Incorporated by Blair Walliser. This is Bill McCord.
Join your favorite couple, Fibber McGee and Molly, tonight on the NBC Radio Network.
Welcome back. I love Mike Trent's style. Jim, what are your overall thoughts on this episode?
I just loved it. Like all crime shows on radio at that time, they're all morality tales. They have to end up with whoever did wrong getting their comeuppance. It's set among noir films that the detective, whoever it is, sees something that's wrong and has to set it right. And that's what we hear at the end of that episode. Did he want money? Did he want payment? Nope, he said something right and thought he came out of it pretty well.
Yeah, because that was his whole thing, is just exposing the rackets and cons of the day, as that was such a big focus, as also we see in the TV show Racket Squad. Now, I was wondering, are bored rich kids, like we see portrayed in this episode, particularly likely marks for scammers today? I mean, I think in this case, it seems like it worked for the gamblers because they have money, they have little life experience, and not a whole lot of sense of responsibility.
I think it runs to both ends of the spectrum, surprisingly. One would think that it would only be one, but you get the rich folks, and those are the more elaborate scams that are pulled on them. Generally, the crew has someone that's known as the roper, and it's their job to go out and to identify someone who would make a good mark for the crew to work on and to apply whatever scam they're using on. And then you're having the people at the other end of the scale that are either poor or unsophisticated or just needy. And one of the worst scams that I talk about is called the romance scam, or the Russian bride scam. It's somewhat known, and that's when the scammer gets into the heart of the mark and convinces them they love them more than anything, and eventually progresses where they decide to marry when they've never met in person before. So what you're catching people is at a weak spot. They're needing something to fill a hole inside. So on the rich end of the scale, it's probably greed, and on the other end of the scale, it's need.
Now, one thing that was interesting to me as a non-gambler is that they cheated in a way that I wouldn't have caught on to. I mean, I think most of us know from popular culture about loaded dice and marked cards, but there was none of that there, just a rug roll. What are some other kinds of sneaky ways that con men will use in these sort of gambling cons?
Well, now you've gone to my heart on one con called the 3-card Monte. And I don't know if you've heard about that or not. It's played loosely in big cities and primarily in New York. It's said to be the longest running con on Broadway. And the way it works is that you have a person called a tosser who has 3 cards, and the game is 3-card Monte, follow the lady, anything like that. One of them is a queen, and the other 2 cards are say the queen is a red queen, the other two are like black fives or something like that. So it's pretty easy to spot the queen. In this case, the marks self-identify. They come up and look at the game, and they can always see where the queen is. So in that sense, they are seen as someone who can be brought in. Now, let me take you a second to tell you about this crowd that's around a table. Now, when I say table, it's generally a box, a cardboard box. And it appears that all kinds of different people are watching and playing. Some of them win, some of them lose, but the mark is out here seeing the queen every single time. And he thinks, I should be able to beat this. These people must be idiots that they can't see the queen. At that point, the tosser, and don't say that in England because it means something completely different there. You'll get your lights punched out. But the tosser will say something like, open the gate, or something along that lines. What they don't realize is that everybody around this table is a shill. And they're dressed differently, they look differently, they talk differently. You would not think they would know each other. And when the gate opens, they're kind of moving the mark toward the box where the tosser's working. And then they close the gate behind them. If that person is with somebody, a friend, a spouse, something like that, that person is edged off to the side so they don't influence what's going on. So they're doing this, and they're tossing things back and forth. And this guy finally says, well, I'll bet a little money. So he puts down $20 or whatever it is, and he wins. And that's called the convincer. It goes on. There comes a point where you have to make the sucker angry. And we heard that in the Trent episode on the dice. They wanted to make the guy so angry that he threw all his money down there and lost it. And that's what happens in this game is you get the mark to throw all their money down there. They're angry with the tosser. They know they can beat them. And that's when the cards get switched. And of course, there's no queen. The box folds up. The cards or the money is taken. Cards are gone. And they are out of there in nothing flat. I'm told this game can clean someone out in about 8 minutes.
Wow. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about your podcast, which, as I think listeners can tell, you know quite a bit about this. Why did you start the Scams and Cons podcast?
Now, since I was a kid, I always had this fascination with heist films. And to pull off a good heist, you have to run a lot of cons in the middle to make sure that you get the information and the people that you need to pull it off. So I retired. I'm an old guy. And I started out in radio. I've always missed it. And I thought, well, why not start a podcast? Everybody else has one. I should be able to pull it off.
Now, how often does your podcast come out? And you've also been doing a series on people making themselves disappear. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, we come out, the longer episodes come out on the second and fourth Thursdays. I'm also doing a thing called Scams and Cons News, which are scams that are more current. And that comes out on the first and third, although I'm hoping to step that up this fall. Our first 5 seasons have been about different scams and how they're run. And in education, we say we take people behind the scenes to show them how scams are run and why people fall for them. And it occurred to me that we're always looking at it, and the goal is to look at it from the criminal's point of view. But what if we flipped it around and had one person try to con the entire world? And so that was the premise behind the Vanishing series. How do you pull off a con on the whole world so that they think you're something you're not? And it sounds like fun, but it is incredibly difficult to do.
Now, I personally have been scammed. I was scammed by my first employer who, ran a newspaper. And I like to say we had a philosophical disagreement over whether you should pay your employees. But have you ever been scammed?
Oh, yeah. I think there's probably everybody's been scammed in one way or another. One of the ones that sticks in my mind is that I'm leaving the road near my house to get on the interstate, and there's a car pulled over and the hood is up, and it seems that the engine is overheated, and there's two little kids with this guy. This has all the elements of a scam on it, just everything. But I'm a sucker. I pull over and ask what's going on. He goes, "Oh, I just need some antifreeze to get back in here. My car's overheated. We're heading toward Knoxville," and the whole 9 yards. And I see those kids there, and I just go, well, what if this is real? And we can talk later about how con artists get you to believe something that's not true. But I said, okay, I'll buy you some antifreeze. We'll get you up and going. And tell me how many gallons you need, and I'll go get them. And he says, "Oh, you can just give me the money. I'll run up here to the convenience store and buy it." And I said, "No, I'm not going to do that. I will buy you antifreeze, but I will not just hand the money over to you." Well, he wasn't very pleased with that, but told me. And so I went out and spent, I guess, about $60 on antifreeze and brought it back to him. So at that point, he's either cursing me or he needed the antifreeze and was going to get back on the road. I preferred not to stand around and find out, because I knew that probably 100% I was being scammed. But the thought of those two kids sitting there is like, okay, I'd rather be a sucker than ignore somebody in real need. So that, and there was another good scam that was run on me. Oh, I ran it on myself. I should be honest about that. There's a scam where somebody stands in a parking lot playing a violin, and it's beautiful music, just gorgeous stuff. And people want to give money, thinking, oh, this person's out on their luck and that sort of thing. So I come up to this Target store, and typically the violin is plugged into an amplifier. And sometimes, frequently, there's somebody else with them, a kid or somebody along that lines. And the violinist is not playing at all. From a cell phone or something is being plugged into the amplifier, and that's what's coming out. But the con artist has learned how to mimic the movements that go with the music. All right, so I sit there and think, I run a podcast. So I got out my cell phone and went up and confronted him. And of course, he didn't speak English. And he wouldn't say anything to me. I tried to get him to unplug the violin. He wouldn't do that. So I just kind of gave him trouble for a while, to be honest with you. And a couple of weeks later, so I'm in a different parking lot in a different area. And what do you know? There's another violin player. So I go up to the guy and do the same thing. And he says, "I'm no scammer." He pulls the plug out of the violin and plays incredible music without the speaker. He'd studied for 8 years violin. He absolutely knew what he was doing. So I guess in that case, the tables got turned and I got scammed.
Well, that's definitely an interesting story. I'm kind of wondering if you just revealed to me that I got scammed, but I think because I gave money to a violin player recently. But let's go ahead and
sorry to bring that to your attention.
But let's go ahead and we'll get on to our next episode, which is going to be from Dragnet. It's one of my all-time favorite episodes from November 23rd, 1950. Here's the Big Betty.
The story you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Dragnet.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to bunco detail. A gang of petty swindlers has set up operations in your city. They're experienced, cunning. They work fast. Your job, get them.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, December 14th. It was cold in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of bunco detail. My partner's Ben Romero. The boss is Captain McCauley. My name's Friday. It was 10:35 a.m. when I got to room 38. Bunco detail.
Joe?
Yeah, Ben.
Joe, this is Miss Bergstrom. You talked to her on the phone last night?
Oh, yeah, sure.
This is my partner, Sergeant Friday.
How do you do?
Glad to know you. Would you care to sit down?
Thank you. I was downtown, so I thought it'd be just as easy for me to come in and see you.
Did you bring those things with you, Miss Bergstrom?
Here they are. Wristwatch. Pen and pencil set.
Mm-hmm. Sure make them look nice, don't they?
On the outside, yeah.
Let me take the back off the watch for you. There. You can see for yourself, Sergeant.
It's junk, not worth 15 cents.
Charged me $48 for that watch. Said it was wholesale. He wasn't making any profit on it. Told me he was doing it because he'd known Harry so well. Watch only ran for a day, then it stopped.
How about the pen and pencil set, miss?
This is bad. Pen's just a shell, won't even write. Same with a pencil. I paid him $30 for them.
Mm-hmm. This engraving on the pen was love from Harry.
That's Harry's boy is engaged to. That's how the man got me interested to start with. Came to my house and gave them to me. The watch and the pen and pencil. Said Harry had ordered them as presents for me.
See?
I just had to cry when he brought them. Poor Harry.
When did this man come to your home, Miss Bergstrom?
Yesterday morning. Guess I should have been more careful, but I didn't think anybody would do a thing like that.
What kind of a story did he give you?
Well, he came to the door and told me his name was Spencer. He said Harry had ordered these things as presents for me, and Harry told him to deliver them to my house. The watch looked beautiful in the case. I didn't know anything was wrong.
I see. Would you go on, please?
He told me it was a special order. Said Harry had written him from overseas a week before. Harry was in the Marine Corps, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he said he hoped the engraving was all right. The way Harry wrote he wanted it in his letter. I just couldn't take it. I cried.
This man, he pretended to be a close friend of Harry's?
Yeah. That's why I showed him the letter. The one from the Marine Corps about Harry being killed overseas.
When did you receive that letter, Miss Bergstrom?
2 days before, on Saturday. Harry's name was on the casualty list on Monday.
Yes, we understand. What did the man do when you showed him the letter?
Oh, he sympathized with me. Or he pretended to. I didn't think there was any trick. I didn't think anybody was that low. Pen and pencil set looked a little cheap, but I wanted them no matter how cheap they were. Harry's last present to me, that's what I thought.
How did he broach the idea of money?
Well, when he was ready to leave, he told me Harry had ordered the things on credit. He said he didn't want to mention it, but he wondered how he could get payment for the watch and the pen and pencil.
Well, he didn't show you a bill, did he? An invoice listing the price of the watch or the engraving that was done?
No. I didn't want him bothering Harry's mother or father at a time like this. I borrowed some money from my dad and paid him.
Let's see, it's $48 for the watch, $30 for the pen and pencil set.
Yeah. He gave me a phone number to call if the watch needed adjustment, and when I found the watch was a fake, I called the number. It was a Chinese laundry. They didn't know anything about it.
You haven't seen or heard from this man since he left your house yesterday morning?
No.
Could you describe this man for us, Miss Bergstrom? What he looked like, clothes he was wearing?
What? It's right here on this slip of paper, Sergeant. I wrote it all out for you.
Thank you.
Well, you're not alone, if that's any consolation. There's an Army widow out in Hollywood who was cheated on the same kind of deal last Friday.
It's so cruel using a dead person's name to cheat you.
Yes, ma'am.
How can anybody get lower than that?
They keep trying. Ben and I took Miss Bergstrom's crime report. The phony watch and pen and pencil set were booked as evidence. In the past 2 weeks, we'd received a half a dozen identical complaints from relatives or friends of lately deceased persons. The swindler, or con man, as he likes to be called in his trade, gets the names of lately deceased persons from the obituary column or the military casualty list in the newspapers. And then he fixes up some cheap article of merchandise with appropriate engraving and calls on the friends and relatives of the deceased. He pretends to know nothing about the death of the person whom he claims placed the order for the merchandise. In almost every case, the friend or relative agrees to pay for the articles at some exorbitant price. For the con man, it's a lucrative racket. For the public, a vicious one. Wednesday, December 15th, Ben and I looked up an informant, a former con man.
What do you think of it, fellas? Been in business for 2 months, doing fine. What do you think of it?
Looks great, Judge. Nice setup.
Finest baby laundry in South Los Angeles. That's why I advertise. Hey, you don't think that's too broad, do you?
No, I don't think so, Judd. You got some nice equipment here. Baby laundry. How'd you ever get started?
Father-in-law set me up with a loan. Says he got tired of me trying to sell him bum watches.
Well, that's a good break for you, Judd. Say, you got a couple of minutes? We'd like to talk to you.
Sure thing. Come on back here.
Okay.
Fine, thanks.
Yeah, it's squared away, living a solid life. Not bad at all, you know. It surprised me.
You ever see any of the old gang, Judge?
Not much, no. Some of the old grifters look me up now and then, try to touch me. No go. Hey, here you are. Pull one up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, fellas, what can I do for you?
Well, we'd like to know how close you got your ear to the ground, Judd. There's a gang of bunks in town. They're working hard.
What pitch they using?
They're working the obits, the casualty lists. Thought maybe you might be able to help us.
I don't know. How long you been gone?
Last couple of weeks. Had half a dozen reports on them.
That's one thing they never could tap me for. Obituary racket. Lousiest racket there is.
Can you do anything for us?
I heard one little rumble about it. 4 or 5 guys in the con mob. That right?
We know that, Judd. Where can we look for them?
Now, you know my position. When I quit the game, I quit. The only contacts I make are when some of the old boys come around for a touch.
Well, how much have you heard about the gang?
What I said, there's 4 or 5 of them out of the Middle West, I think.
You got any idea at all where we could start looking?
Well, I can start checking for you. You nailed any of them yet?
We gotta find them before we can arrest them, Judd.
Yeah, well, as I say, when I quit the game, I quit. But maybe I can take a few soundings for you. Can't promise you anything. I'm strictly on the up and up.
Okay, Judd. You know where to get in touch with us. We'll appreciate anything you can do.
Yeah, well, you've helped me plenty of times, fellas. Wouldn't hurt a bit to tab that bunch. I'll walk out with you.
Fine.
I see you got all the machines going. Baby laundry business must be pretty good, huh?
It's a staple commodity, fellas. Kids always need a fresh change. Just a minute. Yeah, look at this. Just look at the size of it.
Yeah.
You ever see anything so small in your life? It's cute, huh?
Yeah, what is it?
New kind of soakers, I think. Let's see the label here. Yeah, Mother Greg Super Soakers. Kids things, they sure give me a wallet, you know.
Hey, we might as well check the office while we're here, Ben. Can I use your phone, Judd?
Yeah, right over there on the wall. You got change?
Yeah, thank you. I have.
City Hall.
2572.
2572.
Bunko fugitive, Brian.
Joe Friday, Tom. Anything doing?
Yeah, Joe. Think we might have a lead on those bunks working the obituary racket.
What do you got?
They reached a woman in Highland Park. Where are you?
Baby laundry.
Oh. Well, it's a Mrs. Westerly. Her daughter was killed in an auto accident. Last night they came around and sold the woman a watch her daughter was supposed to have ordered. Also a necklace and pen and pencil set. $250. Usual junk.
Did you talk to this Mrs. Westerly?
Yeah, we took the report. The man's description, his M.O., the rest all match up.
What's the lead?
She watched the man when he left her house.
Yeah?
He got in a taxi cab.
10:30 a.m. While Sergeants Bryant and Ullery got out a broadcast on the suspect, Ben and I drove to the offices of the cab company where we contacted the special agent. He helped us check the way bills for the preceding night. On the way bill for cab 213, we found the trip listed. Starting point, the intersection nearest the Westerly home. Destination, a hotel on South Flower Street. We went to the hotel and interviewed the desk clerk. From the description we gave him, he identified the man as Fred G. Norris from Minneapolis. At least that's the way he'd signed the hotel register. The clerk told us Norris wasn't in. We had him show us Norris's room. In his suitcases, we found quantities of dime store costume jewelry, monogrammed, and 24 cheap wristwatches and wallets and handbags done in poor quality imitation leather. Also a portable engraving set. The clerk told us that Norris was expected back shortly. We told him to say nothing to the suspect when he arrived. We called the office and arranged for a stakeout at the hotel, and we drove back to the office. 1 p.m. They told us Norris had been recognized from his description and picked up by Unit 17R on the way back to his hotel shortly before noon. Ben and I joined Sergeants Ullery and Bryant in the interrogation room where they were questioning the suspect. He looked about 40 years old, white, male American, about 6 feet tall, 170 pounds. He would admit nothing. Bryant kept questioning him.
You're wasting our time and your own, Norris. Face it. You were playing a rough game and you lost. Now, how about it?
You're going to feel pretty silly when you find out you got the wrong guy.
Who do you work for, Fred?
You can do what you want about investigating me. You haven't a thing to hold me on.
There's no use wasting any more time. You got that list of victims?
Yeah. These are the ones that tabbed Norris.
Thank you.
A couple more here, Joe.
Thanks, Ben. Hello, Miss Bergstrom there, please? Oh, this is Sergeant Friday, Miss Bergstrom, Bunco Detail. Yeah, we picked up a suspect. We'd like to see if you can identify him. Would it be all right if we sent a card for you right now? All right, fine. Thank you very much. Bye.
Look, I can't sit here all day. I have business to attend to.
Quiet, Norris. He's on the phone.
Hello, Miss Cronin there, please. This is Sergeant Friday calling, Miss Cronin. Bunco Detail? Yes, ma'am, that's right. I'm sorry to disturb you, but we have a suspect in custody down here. Yes, ma'am?
Hey, Sergeant.
Could you come down to City Hall right away?
Sergeant.
Would you hold on just a minute, please? Thank you. Yeah, Norris.
You got me.
2:58 p.m. We informed the victims that the special show-up had been canceled. And we called in a stenographer and had her take Fred Norris's statement. In addition to listing the crimes he committed, he also told us that there were 6 men in the Bunco gang besides himself. He gave us the names and descriptions of each one of them. He stated that they'd been operating in Los Angeles for the past 4 months. Norris said that none of them had ever met the leader of their Bunco gang. The only contact they had with the leader was through one of the older gang members, a man by the name of Wesley Fisher. Before Norris was taken to Central Jail for booking, he gave us the address of the house where he had been living with the other gang members. Norris's information on the suspects was checked through R&I. We got one mate, Wesley Fisher. He had one prior arrest 2 years before on a grand theft charge, but he'd been released for lack of evidence. 3:15 p.m., together with Sergeants Ullery and Bryant and 2 men from Metro Squad, we drove out to the address given us by Fred Norris. Turned out to be a neat-looking bungalow in the West Hollywood area. Let's go.
We can take the front door, Joe.
Yeah. Say, Tom.
Yeah?
You want to have Johnson and Brewer cover the back of the place, please?
Okay, Joe. Maury and I'll cover the side.
Thanks. Well, let's go, man.
Did you want to see the people who live there?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to check for the termites now? I'm Mrs. Callahan, the owner.
No, ma'am. We want to see the tenants.
I'm afraid you're a little late.
Was that so?
They just moved out, bag and baggage.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Wednesday, December 15th, 4 p.m. We made a thorough check of the house, which the 6 suspects had just vacated. We found nothing that would help us. We talked to the owner of the house where the suspects had been living. She told us that she'd rented the place, furnished, to them about 3 months before. She identified Wesley Fisher's mugshot, but she told us that he'd used the name of Charles Wilder. She also recognized each of the other gang members from the descriptions that Fred Norris had given us. She told us that while they were living there, the men seemed to keep odd hours and that they had a car. She told us that she'd taken the license number of the car the day the men moved in. The number was checked with DMV. It was registered in the name of Wesley Fisher, 1008 California Street. It's a transient hotel. The manager told us Fisher had moved about 9 months ago. There was no forwarding address. We got out an all-points bulletin on Wesley Fisher requesting that all occupants in his car be held for investigation of grand theft. Thursday, December 16th, 8 a.m. Ullery, Bryant, Ben, and I met with Captain McCauley.
Where are they getting all this junk they're palming off? Where's their source of supply?
The guy we picked up, Norris, told us they brought a good supply of it out with him from the Middle West.
That hotel room Norris had downtown, they were using that for a warehouse. They didn't want to keep the stuff at the house they were living in.
How are they hitting? Any possibility of stakeouts?
No, not unless we cover every name in the columns.
You might have to try it. Something's got to be done. Look at these. 2 more this morning, straight out of the obituary column.
Took one family for $90. Another one for $60.
How about that last run through the stats office? Help you any?
He pulled some more mugs for us. I'm going to show them to the victims this morning.
How about this Norris? You think he's come up with everything?
We were up talking to him again at county jail yesterday. Didn't have anything new, Skipper.
We dropped in at the sheriff's bunco detail. They've got one new case, same M.O. Description comes close to one of the guys. The victim was the father of a Navy flyer lost overseas. They sold him a gold watch chain that his son was supposed to have bought him for a present. Solid brass.
The sheriff's men got anything new?
We've been working pretty close with him. Nothing new.
Excuse me. Uncle Fugitive, Captain McCauley.
Can I talk to Joe Friday?
Oh, yeah, hold on. You, Friday.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Joe, this is Judd. Can you meet me out at my place?
What do you got?
Name Wesley Fisher mean anything to you?
8:30 a.m. Ben and I drove out and met with Judd at his home. He was still in his bathrobe when he met us at the door. He told us he had an important appointment downtown at 9 o'clock and he was in a hurry. We talked to him while he shaved.
Hope you fellas don't mind. Can't miss this date, lining up some new business, you know.
It's all right, Judd. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I gotta move fast on these things before they cool, you know.
Well, what you saying with us, Judd? What's the story?
Well, I don't know what's worse. Brother Max called me this morning. Remember my brother Max, don't you?
No, I don't think so.
He works the Pink Parrot Bar in South Main. When you were in to see me the other day about those grifters you want, I gave my brother a tumble on it. Told him to keep an eye open. Now, hand me that towel, will you?
Oh, yeah. Here you go.
Thanks. They're all steamed up.
What'd Max come up with?
Well, he's night bartender at the Parrot, you know. Now, last night he spotted a couple of guys at the bar. Had some day-old newspapers.
Uh-huh.
They were sitting there with the papers turned to the obituary column, checking off names, writing down addresses. Max is pretty sharp that way. Spotted them right off. Lousy razor.
Does Max know these 2 men he spotted?
No, not by name, but he knew that one of them lived in the hotel next door to the bar. When the hotel night clerk come in for a beer, Max asked him about it. He tabbed one of the guys as Wesley Fisher.
Did he have anything on the other man?
No, the clerk told Max he doesn't live at the hotel, but he spends a lot of time there with Fisher.
Had he seen Fisher and this other guy at the bar before?
Yeah, Max says he's been in before. Got lashed up a couple times.
Mm-hmm. Say, would it be okay to contact your brother at his home, Judd?
Sure.
We don't want to contact him at the bar.
Yeah, sure thing. Get your address as soon as I'm finished here. He just moved.
I see.
I don't know. Hope I didn't get you guys out here for nothing.
Appreciate it, Judd. Looks good.
Seems to fit. Had a hotel down there. It's a hang-up for con man. Angles are all there.
Let's hope Fisher is. 8:53 a.m. We arrived at the hotel on South Main Street. We checked with the desk clerk, who told us that Wesley Fisher had room 37. As far as he knew, Fisher was in his room. We got a pass key from the clerk and went up to room 37, where we found Fisher and another man. He identified himself as Raymond Breen, one of the gang members identified by Fred Norris. We also found a small supply of cheap watches and pen and pencil sets in Fisher's car. It was parked near the hotel. It was impounded. We took both suspects back to the city hall. We questioned them separately in the interrogation room. Breen was first, but he refused to answer our questions. He was taken back to the squad room, and Wesley Fisher was brought in.
Sit down, Fisher.
Thank you.
Guess you know why you're here.
No, I haven't the least idea.
All right, then we'll show you. Do you know Fred Norris?
Fred Norris. Name sounds a little familiar. Can't quite place it.
Well, he places you pretty well. He says he worked with you and Breen up till a couple of days ago.
That's so?
Yeah. Says he lived with you in that bungalow out in West Hollywood.
That's so. Norris, West Hollywood. When was that?
2 days ago, Fisher. Your landlady identified your mug. She even had the license number of your car.
What's it prove, gentlemen?
Proves you're lying. You and Breen worked together. You did work with Norris. You're part of one of the filthiest rackets going.
Gentlemen, you're making a bad mistake.
No, there's no mistake, Fisher. Your picture's been identified by at least a half a dozen victims. Now, you can go on playing coy all you want, but we can prove that the pen and pencil sets that you sold some of the victims are identical to the ones we found in your car.
I haven't any idea what you're talking about. Believe me, that's the truth.
You wouldn't know the truth if it followed you, mister. Now, look, maybe you're great at conning old men and young girls, but don't try to pass any of it here.
Now, just a moment.
No, you listen, you two-bit thief. I couldn't begin to tell you off for the rotten things you've been pulling off in this town for the past 3 months. That young girl who lost her boyfriend overseas, that widow out in Hollywood, the old man in Highland Park whose wife passed away. You must have felt pretty sharp cheating them out of a few bucks. Maybe you don't remember, mister, but we do and they do. You're going to pay for them.
You all through?
I'm through, Fisher. You're just starting.
I have nothing further to say, gentlemen. You can talk to my lawyer.
We'll give him your new address.
Yes.
County jail. Suspects Wesley Fisher and Raymond Breen were booked and transported to the county jail. Both of them were positively identified by the victims. Warrants were obtained for the 3 suspects, Norris, Fisher, and Breen. They were arraigned and held to answer at a preliminary hearing on several counts of grand theft. During the next 2 weeks and through the Christmas holidays, identical complaints of bunco operations continued to come in. Friends and relatives of lately deceased persons were still being victimized. The gang's operations continued as usual. There was only one change. The crime report showed that a woman was now operating in the obituary racket along with the male suspects. Christmas came and went. On New Year's Eve, Ben and I were assigned to standby duty. A few minutes before 8 p.m., we got a call from the county jail that Wesley Fisher wanted to see us. Went to the 10th floor of the jail, the interview room.
I'm not going to take all the heat. They're in just as deep as I am. If they can't do right by me, I'll square it up myself. I'll tell you everything I know.
Go ahead, Fisher. What is it?
Her name's Betty McGraw. She's the one you've been looking for. The whole idea was hers. She planned it out. She got everybody together. It was her show.
Where can we find her?
213 Foster, apartment 8.
Wesley Fisher gave a complete statement of all his crimes and also implicated the other members. He told us Betty McGraw was his girlfriend. She'd come up with the idea for the obituary racket. She gathered the men together for the job, and it had been planned that she was to stay in the background. In case of trouble, she would furnish aid to the gang members in the form of bail bond money and lawyers. She received a percentage of the take from each of the gang members. We checked her through R&I. She had a criminal history dating back 11 years. We obtained her mugshot. 10:30 p.m. We went out to the address Fisher gave us. A maid answered the door. She told us that the McGraw woman was not there, that she'd gone to a New Year's Eve celebration at a downtown hotel. It was 11:15 when we got there. We identified ourselves to the special officer at the hotel and showed him the mugshot of Betty McGraw. He thought he'd seen her at the main bar. We started looking.
Sure do pack 'em in.
Yeah. Say, excuse me, please. Can I get through here? Thank you.
Sorry, excuse me. Hey, Joe, over this way. I think we can get through.
Okay, do you see her yet?
No, they're jammed in there. I can't see a thing, but... Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Can you see down at the end of the bar there?
Where?
In the black dress?
Oh, yeah, that's her.
Would you let us through here, please? Excuse me. Sorry. Joe?
Right behind you.
Is your name Betty McGraw? Is your name Betty McGraw?
Yeah, I'm Betty McGraw. I don't know you. Who are you anyway?
Police officer. We'd like to see you outside.
Outside? I'm staying in here. This is where the party is, right here.
Let's go, lady, outside.
Is there a bar outside? I didn't know there was a bar outside.
Okay, Ben.
Come on, Lenny.
I don't know you at all. I'm not going. I'm not going with you. There it is. Happy New Year! Happy New Year!
No use trying to get through this. We'll have to wait.
Yeah. Well, Happy New Year, Joe.
Yeah, same to you.
Maybe next year we'll have it off.
I don't know why. I always cry when I hear that song. No reason, I just cry.
Yeah?
Every year, they play it and I cry. No reason at all.
You got one this year, lady. Come on.
The story you've just heard was true. Only the names were changed to protect the innocent.
On March 28th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 93, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial. The remaining members of the bunco gang were apprehended and brought to trial. All of them, including the gang leader, Elizabeth McGraw, were tried and convicted of grand theft. They are now serving their terms in the state penitentiary. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Fatima Cigarettes, the best of all long cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, portions transcribed from Los Angeles.
Coming up, We the People, then Screen Directors Playhouse on NBC.
Welcome back. Iconic ending, and I think that they make it even more interesting when they brought it to television. What are your thoughts on the episode, Jim, and the way that the scam was portrayed?
I like the episode, and it's a morality play. I have heard that when it went to television, that Jack Webb told people who came on to play different roles to not act. Hit their marks, say your lines, but don't act. And if you listen to Dragnet, that's what it's about. And so it's that characteristic style. In some ways, the Trent character in the earlier podcast or the earlier show we listened to is like Jack Webb. They're straight down the line, no nonsense, and that sort of thing. The one here I particularly liked was how they bring in an ex-criminal to be part of it. And that's part of the morality play. You show that people can be rehabilitated. And there was one line in there. It's the other one, but nevertheless, it was just classic noir.
Yeah, it really was. Now, a lot of this episode centered around things like newspaper obituaries, and then, some of the gifts were things that, while not unheard of, are a little bit less common today, like watches and stationery sets. Are there any updated and methods and practices for this sort of scam that go on today? And are there new variations of this scam that we're seeing today, similar to the obituaries racket?
Yeah, one of the newest ones has to do with gold bars. Is that somebody from another country says, I need cash, but I have these gold bars, and they're worth X number of dollars. And I'll tell you, if you'll give me 3/4 of the value of these things, then I'll take that cash and use it to get home or whatever it is they want to do. And there happens to be a store nearby that sells gold bars, and who knew one could go out and buy gold bars? They're miniature ones, but they're there. So that's taking a part in there. There's always the, this just fell off the pickup truck thing, or off the loading truck, and I'll sell you an Apple phone for $100 or something like that. That's been around for a while. There's all kinds of scams that happen, particularly around convenience stores, where people have the chance while they're pumping gas or something for somebody to come up to them and offer them something that's too good to be true. And as the old saying goes, if it's too good to be true, it's probably not true.
Now, I think particularly in this episode that the way that Betty's gang was able to exploit this was by taking advantage of people's just general expectations that, nobody is going to come up to a grieving widow and try and pull something and pretend on that. Do you think people are more wary of at least these sort of cons that we had portrayed in the episode than they might have been in the past?
You would think so. And that, especially in doing Scams and Cons news, I am constantly amazed at how naive a lot of people are, or how big of hearts they have. A scam that always seems to be going around is somebody calls in and says, I'm from the government, I'm from law enforcement, I need you to withdraw X number of hundreds or thousands of dollars to your account and give it to our agent. We'll use it as bait, and then you'll get the money back. People constantly fall for that. In fact, one woman who is a reporter for a financial publication recently got taken for $50,000 that way. And she should know better. I mean, she covers the news, all kinds of criminals. She should have seen this coming. And she's been very open about it because she knows she was a fool and went for it. That and the other thing I'm seeing recently has to do with internet scams against municipalities and counties. That sort of thing is they'll put in a bug that freezes their computers and then holds it for ransom. Or the other thing with it is that they'll call up and say, I'm your vendor, ABC Construction. We need to change the ACH number on the account. Now, the ACH number is what routes it to a particular checking account. So, oh yeah, we know the vendor, so they make the change, and now all the payments go to the scammer's account. And in the last week, I've heard of 3 communities that have happened to, involving taxpayer money and involving millions of dollars. You would think communities would have caught on to this by now and taken the steps to protect themselves, but they haven't. And it seems like it's going to go on, and I've already got a show planned for it. So,
oh wow! And that one scandal or one scam you described just before was actually a subject of a 1967 Dragnet episode, the bank examiner. Yeah, the bank examiner swindle. So it is an old scam, but apparently still working. So, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that scams are not particularly new. They just change form depending upon the technology and what's available to them, how society runs. There's a great book out there called How a Burglar Sees the City, and it takes you through how a burglar looks at things, ways to get in, ways to get out, that sort of thing. So there's nothing new about robbery. It's just, how do you go about it?
All right. So as we get ready to wrap up, could you let us know the best way to find your podcast and to find you on the internet, and also any specific scams you're going to be looking into in the future?
Oh, let's see. I'm just finishing up season 6, and that'll wrap in late May. The next main season will be in September, and the news episodes will run throughout the summer. To find me, just go to scamsandcons.com. So that's pretty easy. Or any place you get podcasts, just type in Scams and Cons, and you'll see the logo come up. It's bright yellow. It's kind of hard to miss. And you'll see my ugly face on there pocketing a bunch of money that I just took from somebody. Or at least that's what I'd like you to think anyway. And
so you're scamming us with the picture.
I am absolutely doing that. And then Instagram and Facebook both have pages. And again, just search for Scams and Cons and you'll be there.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. It was a pleasure having you on the podcast. Now, before we go, I want to thank our Patreon supporter of the day. Thank you to Philip, Patreon supporter since June of 2023, currently supporting the podcast at the rookie level of $2 or more per month. Thank you so much for your support, Philip. And that will do it for today. If you're enjoying the podcast, please follow us with your favorite podcast software. We will be back tomorrow with an episode of The Adventures of the Falcon where...
I'm ashamed of my past.
I don't see why. You have no criminal record that the police can discover. This was your first offense.
Always the first time for everything.
Well, it goes deeper than that, Kramer. You weren't hard-pressed for cash, either.
Oh, how do you know?
I went through your room, found this bank book there.
Who gave you a license to go through my stuff?
The police. There's $7,000 in that account.
Well, maybe that wasn't enough for me.
Well, you certainly couldn't hope to pick up more at the Revere Express Company.
A fella can try.
Yeah, I know, but you didn't have your heart in it. The DA showed me the gun they took away from you up there.
Yeah?
Yeah. That thing couldn't hurt a fly. The firing pin was filed all the way down.
You're out of your mind, Falcon.
Now, don't tell me that. I saw the gun.
Well, if the pin was shot, I didn't know about it. You don't think I'd do anything as silly as that?
I think you're doing something a lot sillier.
Now, look, Kramer, you better start talking. Unless you level with me, they're really going to pop it to you.
Why don't you mind your own business?
Can I help it if I'm nosy?
Well, maybe this will cure you.
Mike, what's going on in there?
In the meantime, send your comments to box13 at greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives, and check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/greatdetectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.